Good evening. My name is Megan McCaffrey, and I'm the Vice President of Marketing and Communications. And I'd like to welcome you to the second installment of RCAP Solutions Meet the Housing Experts webinar series. I'd like to thank you for joining us tonight. We're going to be diving right into our robust suite of housing programs and how they are beneficial to tenants and homeowners. Our last webinar covered resources available for landlords and is available for you to view on our YouTube channel. We have one more session in this series, which will focus on resources for the general public. That will take place on June 3rd. You can find more information, including the registration links on our website, which is www.rcapsolutions.org. Simply click on the Events tab on the top bar, and you'll find our calendar of upcoming events. Before we get started, I'd like to review just a couple of housekeeping items, which should help to keep things running smoothly. We have a lot of great information tonight that we'll be covering with you. Please keep yourself on mute. There will be an allotted time at the end of each section for questions, which you can ask at any time during the next hour by typing in the chat box. We will address the questions after each section of the presentation. We ask that you keep your questions generic. If you have any specific questions that relate to an issue that you're facing, we invite you to contact our housing team by phone or email after the event tonight. We will provide contact information for all of our programs at the end of the presentation. Also, we will follow up by sending out the recorded webinar, the slides, and additional information via email in a couple of days. I've already introduced myself. I'll be moderating the webinar tonight with my colleague, Adam Drozd. He's the communications coordinator with me at RCAP Solutions. Adam will be tracking the questions and answers for us tonight. We have a very talented slate of presenters for you tonight. These are our housing experts. Lavette Chisholm is the Director of Housing Counseling and Financial Services. She'll be kicking things off tonight. She heads up our Housing Consumer Education Center, which is the front door to RCAP Solutions and your first point of contact for all housing, counseling, and financial questions. Her team includes Jahira Gonzalez, the Deputy Director of Housing Counseling and Financial Services, and Asher Gerbas, the Residential Loan Fund Manager. They'll talk about housing counseling, financial services, including RAFT, and the Home Modification Loan Program. Next, you'll hear from Maureen Martinez, Director of Rental Assistance. She leads our subsidized housing and voucher programs. She's joined by Sally Neves, Deputy Director of Rental Assistance. We will close out the event with Linda Kerwin, Chief Elderly Services Officer and Director of Property Management. She will discuss our senior, family, mobility impaired, and disabled housing. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge and thank our partners: Community Economic Development Assistance Corporation, Mass Rehabilitation Commission, Department of Housing and Community Development, the United States Department of Agriculture, and the National Community Reinvestment Coalition. RCAP is able to administer these programs that you'll hear about tonight, thanks to the funds from the various state and federal organizations that are listed here. RCAP Solutions is a thriving, integrated community development corporation working with a multifaceted suite of services in other areas of opportunity. Our mission is to foster personal and public self-reliance and improve the quality of life for individuals, families, and the communities in which they live. RCAP Solutions envisions a world made up of strong and resilient communities and individuals, confident in their potential with an ownership of their success. At this time, I'm going to hand it over to Adam, who will continue to give you an overview of our organization.
Great, thank you, Megan, and thanks again, everybody, for joining us tonight. So a little bit about us. We're the home of the Worcester County Housing Consumer Education Center, or HCEC for short. We serve tenants, landlords, homeowners, and home buyers, and are a one-stop shop for all housing information, supportive programs, and referrals. This is a map of our service area. We cover all of Worcester County and a handful of the surrounding towns. The different service areas and topics we'll discuss tonight include housing, counseling, and financial services, which is resources for tenants and homeowners, such as emergency rental or mortgage assistance, counseling and education, and home modification loan program. Our subsidized housing programs include Section 8 and other specialized voucher programs. And finally, RCAP Solutions manages several affordable housing properties for the elderly, individuals with disabilities, and families throughout Central Mass. And so with that, I'll hand it off to the first speaker, who is Lavette Chisholm, the Director of Housing Counseling and Financial Services.
Thanks, Adam. Welcome, everybody. Next slide, please. So as Adam and Megan indicated, the Home Counseling and Financial Services, or RCAP in general, is dedicated to providing safe and affordable housing programs for Central Mass. As they indicated earlier, HCEC, the Financial Assistance Program, and the Home Modification Program all fall under the Housing Counseling and Financial Services umbrella. Next slide. Because our HCEC team is the boots on the ground, so these are the first individuals that you speak to generally coming through the door. That was prior to RAFT taking over, which Jahira will go into a little bit later. But our HCEC teams are the individuals that are going to guide you when you come through the door. They're going to find out what direction do you need to come to when you come through RCAP's doors. Do you need assistance with Section 8 so they can guide you in the right direction with that? Are you in need of rental assistance so that you can be directed to the rental, to the RAFT program? Are you in need of modifications to your home for someone who is disabled, who is residing there and need to go to the home modification loan program? Are you in need of counseling because you're a first-time home buyer and you need classes and workshops? So that is some of the services that HCEC provides. Next slide. HCEC also provides tenant resources. So some of the things that HCEC oversees in assisting individuals that come through our doors are tenants in need of knowing what their rights are. So there are classes that are conducted for that. Landlords who need to know what landlord rights are. Information with regards to housing issues in general. We get those resources for you so that we can arm you with the information that you need. Strategies with regards to budgeting. If you're working and there's a credit issue, we have counselors that will do one-on-one counseling with that. The other thing that we offer is referral resources. If there are the resources that are out there, whether they be shelters, whether they be the closest hotel, whether there are issues with, you need to know about SNAP programs or WIC programs, mediation, legal representation and guidance in that direction. We have a team for that guides you in that direction. HCEC also provides one-on-one light counseling for our individuals that are coming through the door who don't understand the RAFT application and what that encompasses. So we have a team of talented individuals that will go through the application process with you, guide you through those resources, and get you to where you need to be, whether it be on the landlord front or whether it be on the tenant front. We're here to service. Next slide, please. We also offer first-time homebuyers education and financial empowerment. This is for individuals who are coming in that need to do their counseling workshops and the first-time homebuyer programs to get their certifications to close on that property. This is a HUD and CHAPTER requirement. So this is something that we do offer, and the classes are online. With this comes the one-on-one counseling that we do offer individuals coming through the door. We offer one-on-one counseling also for individuals who are in the process of being foreclosed on. So we want to give you foreclosure prevention. What do we need to, what information can we arm you with to stop that process so that you can go and gather those that information that you need, whether it be credit, whether it be redirection. We give you options. We try to give that information to empower you in that direction. So that's basically what HCEC encompasses, and working hand in hand with our RAFT team, which Jahira so well oversees. So I'm going to hand it over to Jahira. Jahira oversees our RAFT, ERAP, and ERMA programs. Jahira, take it away. Next slide.
Good evening, everyone. Like Lavette said, we do have the financial assistance program available at RCAP Solutions. At the moment, we are offering 3 different programs that are residential, which is RAFT, Residential Assistance for Families in Transition. That is what we are known for the longest, but now we have different pots of funds, which are ERMA, Emergency Rental Assistance, for homeowners who are in need of assistance with their arrears in their mortgage, as well as now federal funds for everyone when needed due to COVID. In order for clients to apply for these programs, there are requirements, and our team at RCAP Solutions will be able to determine which program will best fit your needs when you're coming in to apply for the program. Next slide. Who's eligible for RAFT? Homeowners, renters at the moment are able to apply for the funds. Those who are homeless, at risk of being homeless, if you have a shut-off notice, we are helping with utilities at the moment. If you are in court and you owe your owner rent arrears, you're more than welcome to come in and apply for the program. Not necessarily you need to have income to apply for the program. I want to make that clear. At one point, the RAFT program did need the client to have some sort of income in order to be eligible for the program. But our funders, knowing that we are COVID impacted, the program has been a little bit more lenient this year, so that is not a necessity or a requirement. And we would be able to assist and give you more details into what will consist of a complete application when it comes to applying for the program and what documentation is needed later on as well. Next slide. So on this slide, it just, I guess, explains what funds are established for which programs. So RAFT, ERMA, we have regular RAFT for those clients who are homeless and or in the verge of being homeless could utilize the RAFT program. ERMA is strictly for homeowners or those clients who are over the 50% income medium of what RAFT determines eligibility. And now due to COVID, there is the new emergency RAFT funds, which is called ERAP. And then it tells you, you know, more so what to expect from the program. You have to obviously owe rent. It has to be COVID impacted. And you not necessarily need to have a housing crisis per se, but you need to show us what was impacted due to COVID that you are not able to sustain or continue paying rent moving forward. So we are able to help you with future stipends when it comes to paying for your future rent as well. Next slide. How to apply for this for the financial assistance program? You could do that on our website at www.rcapsolutions.org. You will see families and individuals. You would click on that link. It would bring you to the HCEC tab, and then right there, the application is either on a PDF form or you are able to apply online. That will go to our Cognito portal, and someone from our agency would be able to give you a more like what to send in terms of documentation if it has not been uploaded. We do tell clients that their application could take a process anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks at the moment. The other thing is if documentation is not uploaded with your complete application, it does take a longer period of time for us to review, because obviously we do have to get back and call the client or the owner to get missing documentation. The documentation can be sent to us either by fax, which is 508-365-6008, or by the HCEC email, which is on the slide as well. We do have a phone number for our team, our triage team, which is on the slide as well. On that email, you are able to upload any missing documentation that you were not able to upload initially when you applied for the program. Next slide. The importance of sending a complete application. If you're going to apply online, we are seeing that more and more clients are not thoroughly going through the application process in terms of signatures. It's very important. Date of birth, social security numbers, very important in order for us to process your application. If an incomplete documentation is submitted, it does go into a file that obviously the program is not able to allow us to see it and know that you have a pending application. So we ask that all applicants going through the portal to apply for the funds take the time to complete an application and make sure that signatures have been in place, because the program will not allow us to process any incomplete applications. The other thing is that you do have a 14-day period to submit documentation. So from the day that the application has been uploaded, from the time that you will receive a call from RCAP Solutions, there is a mark that we give tenants, which is 14 days to get all missing documentations to us. If we do not receive those missing documentations within that timeline, your application will be closed. You're not denied, you'll be closed, and you will have to reapply all over again. So we tell clients, please make sure that one ID for household is needed. Income is very important. And if there is a, let's say if we're gonna pay a bill for utilities, that's important because we do need to have that documentation in your file, as well as proof of your housing prices. Next slide. Also, in terms of, I wanted to go into this as well, there is as well requirements for the owner to submit their landlord packets in order to get paid on the arrears or the first loss in security that you're looking to apply for. If a landlord does not comply with our 14 mark that we give them for missing documentation, we do have to close out the application as well, even though the applicant has submitted all of that documentation. So on both ends, we do need both parties to comply with the required documentation in order for us to review the file for approval and close out the file. Next slide. This slide will more like explain what the documents that the program requires for applicants to submit. We only need one ID for one household member. We do need proof of the housing crisis. Very important that we get their income. The funders have been a lot lenient this year because of COVID. So if you receive Social Security benefits, SSI benefits, and obviously those, we understand that those offices are very strict and their doors are not open to the public all the time. So we are working with clients in terms of utilizing documentation from 2020 in order to approve your file. If you get unemployment benefits, we have a portal that we will check your income for yourself. You don't have to submit that documentation, as well as Mass Health and DTA benefits. On the other side of the slide, it does show the verification of income, what more so we would need from the client. But like I said, unemployment, DTA, and Mass Health, we are able to verify those incomes for you. Unfortunately, when it comes to SSI and SSP, we don't have the capability of doing that just yet. But if you have an award letter or any documentation from 2020, we are able to help. One of the things that I also would like to explain to clients, if you are applying for funds because you are homeless and you just were pulled for a Section 8 voucher and you're looking for funds to pay that security deposit, we are not able to process and approve your file unless we have the documentation from Section 8 that a client would get in terms of what your rent calculation has been based off. If we do have that letter on file, we would be able to process your application. More so, we will need a copy of the lease. So those documentations are very important on the landlord side. I know the landlord may not have access to that documentation, but the tenant should be able to provide us with that documentation once the unit has been approved by Section 8. Next slide. Specialized services. So RCAP Solutions has housing counselors available through the HCEC team. Those individuals are able to help you with any resources that are needed when it comes to first-time home buyers, if you need resources for apartments, more so if you need referrals, we are able to help with furniture as well. I wanted to point that out, and we will be able to give referrals to those in need. Yvette's contact is on the slide. She is the best person to reach at the HCEC for referrals. She has been appointed to do this sort of resources for the clients. Her email is as well here. And if there are any questions, you are able to email her, and she's very good about responding right away. Next slide. And I will leave this over to Usher. That is his department when it comes to home modification loan program.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending tonight. As mentioned earlier, my name is Asha Gerbes, and I facilitate the home modification loan program with RCAP Solutions. And it'll be my pleasure tonight to give you some details about the program. So basically, the home modification loan program and how it works is it's a great program that can provide homeowners and landlords with the ability to help elderly, disabled tenants and or family members, for example, to improve their quality of life, safety, and maintain self-reliance. As the slide indicates, the home modification loan program is a state-funded lending program providing loans to homeowners and small landlords to fund necessary changes to keep disabled or elderly family members in their own homes. The work must be completed by contractors who are licensed and insured in the state of Massachusetts. Such modifications can include, as the slide indicates, ramps, stair lifts, along with stair lifts, also elevators, wheelchair lifts, for example, bathroom, kitchen modifications, therapy spaces, fences, and more. So with that said, next slide, please. Now the program for property owners, the loans can be based from $1,000 all the way up to $50,000. For mobile home owners, it's from $1,000 to $30,000. Now, want to make a particular attention to landlords with fewer than 10 units. They are eligible may be eligible for a 3% loan for a tenant. With this type of loan, landlords will use the income portion on the application based on the tenant's income. The applicant, however, must be the owner of the property. The modifications will be done. The property must be located in Massachusetts. Real estate taxes must be current. State income taxes must be current or must have a payment plan with no late payments. So with that said, this type of loan, it does require monthly payments of both principal and interest, depending on the loan term. Maturity date on all amortizing loans is based on the following. For example, $1,000 to $5,000, the repayment period is 5 years. $5,001 up to $10,000, it's 10 years. And $10,001 up to $50,000, it's 15 years. With that said, there is such that if the landlord is renting to a family member with a disability, they may qualify for a 0% interest deferred loan with a one-time payment. Now, the 0% interest deferred loans are repaid when a property is sold or when the property ownership is transferred. So there is no monthly payments throughout this time. The modifications must relate to the beneficiary's medical and or functional needs. Now, the income guidelines for the 0% interest deferred loans are based on the homeowner's total gross income up to 200% median income. For example, the next slide, please. Say a household of two, it's up to $214,800. And as you can see, family size goes up, the income guidelines go up also. Now, to apply for this type of program, you can download the application as the slide indicates, www.rcapsolutions.org/HMLP. And the application process, with any questions, you could reach out to myself, and I will gladly be able to answer any questions, go over the application process, and give guidance as needed. So one thing that I would like to mention is landlords at some times would like to maybe ask themselves, well, why would they want to take out a loan for their tenants? Well, it's so much helping out the tenants, it's helping out also the community. There are many reasons you can take out loans for yourself. It can also provide stable tenancy, which results less vacancy rates. Stable tenants do mean landlords will have a stable and steady cash flow, because as a landlord, that's probably one of the main goals of having property, is to have a stable and steady cash flow. Now, the modifications made to the property, it doesn't just make the property look good and nice, it helps the property more marketable for a growing pool of tenants. So with that said, the program, I explained it in a few minutes. For the time allotted, there's a lot of information that, again, pertains to the program, but I gave you some basics. And again, I offer my services to anyone and everyone that needs or has any questions. You can always reach out to me, and I will be glad to help and assist as needed. And I guess my time is up. Thank you.
All right, we'll take some questions now. We are almost at 6:30, so we'll take just a few and then move on, because we have some more information to cover. there'll be some more Q&A later on. But we have one regarding applying for RAFT online, that they uploaded the required documents as JPEGs, but they were rejected. Someone can chime in, but I would say probably send an email to the HCEC team.
I would think in that instance, it would be the size of the document. So it depends on how they're sending it to us. If they're sending a JPEG and it's coming large, it's not going to be able to come through. The thought process would be to either fax the documents over with the information that Jahiris provided, that was also in our other slides. If you're in the area and you want to drop the application off, my suggestion would be to work with a staff member to get the application to us as soon as possible so that we can get those documents in. And even mail, that works as well.
Someone asked a question about who submits the landlord documentation, which Livette answered, but I just want to reiterate it for everyone else is the landlord is responsible for submitting their packet. So there's documents from both the landlord and the tenant that's required. We have a question about HMLP. Do you have any help refinancing a home loan of an elderly and disabled daughter mother?
So the home modification, I'm going to jump in on Asher on this one. The home modification loan program does not offer, we don't modify mortgages. It is strictly based on, it's a loan based on the need to modify the home, not the mortgage. So that's the difference between the program.
And so was 4,000 from September-ish of last year RAFT?
Yeah,
I'll let them answer.
At one point, the RAFT program was strictly $4,000 across the board, but things have changed as the years have gone by. We have now regular RAFT is no longer 4,000. The max amount is 10,000. ERMA is as well 10,000, and then with ERAP, it's a little bit more flexible. So the amount is a little bit higher than 10,000. We understand that there are renters out there that due to the COVID impact, they have not been able to return back to work, and they owe rent arrears, let's say from last April. So if those clients are in need of funds to pay their rent, they can come in and apply for the program. But the amount is more than 4,000.
If someone has applied for, has received RAFT ERMA in the past, but they need more assistance, are they eligible to reapply?
They could put in an application and we'll review it.
For people applying for RAFT, are there restrictions on backgrounds, like someone with a criminal record? No.
No.
Can undocumented folks apply for these funds?
Yes. You don't need a social security number to apply for the program.
And someone asked, the maximum approval now is 6,000, but it's 10,000, correct?
It's 10,000, yes.
Okay. What documents does my landlord need to fill out?
I just want to explain a little bit more because I know that Livette did answer this, but for those who don't know and they're coming brand new into the program, so you would apply, send in your application. Once we have received your application with all the requested documentation, at that time, we will review everything and send you a copy of the landlord packet to give to the landlord for that owner to fill out. A lot of landlords don't like to give their personal documentation to the tenant. So the landlord does have our information on that landlord packet where to submit all of the documentation directly to the RAFT program.
And what can the funds be used for? I know we kind of went over this,
Yep,
but
so the funds at the moment could be used for a deposit. It could be used for first loss and security. It could be utilized for furniture. It could be utilized for rent arrears, mortgage arrears, utility arrears. I think I've gone through it all. Yeah.
and it's paid directly to the landlord, correct?
Correct. The funds will not go directly to the tenant. RCAP Solutions will send funds directly to the vendor. We'll send payments directly to the owner. If they have movers, we'll pay movers as well. Everything will be directly to that vendor who we're going to submit payment to.
Mhm. We have a couple questions about contacting us and pending applications, so we'll send out some more information at the end. There's going to be contact information, and we'll follow up with an email. Can someone assist with filling out RAFT forms in person at this time?
So due to COVID, we are very strict when it comes to clients coming into the office. At the moment, we are per se not open to the public, but we will schedule an appointment for those who are in need of assistance and filling out an application. It's just not in a walk-in basis like it used to. We do need to have someone available in the building to actually be available to meet with the client and so forth. So yeah, we would be able to set up an appointment. Again, that client has to call the triage number in order to do that.
All right, I'll do one more question, then we can move on and we'll have some more Q&A later. This one follows up to previous questions, but is there a time frame or a time limit to reapply if you've already received RAFT but you need more assistance?
No, so it would be the same as when they initially applied. There is a waiting time period. So we tend to tell clients that you have to be patient with us because our volume of applications coming in is very high at the moment. But we do have a time frame from 4 to 6 weeks to get back to clients when it comes to their applications.
All righty, thank you very much. And we'll move into the next section here, subsidized housing programs, who is, and I'll hand it off to the next speaker, Maureen Martinez, who is our Director of Rental Assistance.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Seems like my volume was a little down. So good evening. I am the Director of Rental Assistance at RCAP Solutions, and many of the programs that I manage are throughout just the HCV vouchers and the MRVP vouchers, which are the Housing Choice Voucher and the Mass State Rental Voucher. You can go to the next screen, please. So the wide variety of voucher programs that we offer assist income eligible tenants. And a lot of the time, most of the time, they'll pay up to 30 to 40% of their income, and RCAP Solutions would pay the difference. We also mandated to have inspections that they must pass to be eligible to be in the program. And the programs within the programs will only be eligible to those housing choice voucher holders. So the difference of a Section 8 voucher, which is HCVP, and a mass rental voucher, which is an MRVP, is one is administered and paid through HUD, a federal program, and one is paid through the Massachusetts programs. We also offer a self-sufficiency program to help clients become more economically stable, and that is only offered to your HCV program voucher holders. We also have a snowmass program. It's a mobility program to move families with children into high economic areas, and that program really focuses on finding apartments and condos and in these areas that are economically better, less poverty. And so there's an application, and that program is open to all HCVP participants as well. The Veterans Affairs Supported Housing, the VASH program, is a program offered to veterans through the Veterans Office, and they are a closed referral. So we only receive referrals for that program through the Veterans Administration. And then they will get a HCVP, a Housing Choice Voucher, but it will be designated to a VASH participant. And this will come with a lot of support through the Veterans Affairs, and they stay on case management, and they really help the veterans quite a bit. Project-based Section 8 rental assistance is different. We have two supporting kinds. We have a Housing Choice Voucher program for project-based, and we have the Mass Rental Voucher program through the state, and it's also project-based. The difference between the two programs is one is mobile and one is stationary and tied to the unit. Rental assistance for housing and rehabilitation, our MOD program, is a very old program, and this program has a lot of single occupancy rooms. So people who are single and not eligible for a lot of the other programs can get rehabilitated from many of the alcohol treatment centers or the hospitals, and these aren't often open for families or anything to this effect, but it gets a different portion of our society to get some extra housing, and all of these homes were modified and re-looked at and restructured through the MOD program. Next slide, please. So affordable housing choices for low-income households, we will pay the portion that is designated to the housing authority, and then the private owner will receive a direct deposit, and the tenant will pay the landlord their portion directly. We use all privately owned and corporate apartments. It's a big pros offered. There's no eligibility to become a landlord. You just have to pass the HQS inspection, which we will get into in a little bit. And you also have to sign a HAP contract, which is a housing assistance payment contract. The demand for our vouchers is very high at this point. However, I suggest everybody get on a list as soon as you can. They're often purging lists, and they're often giving us more money to issue more vouchers. Right now we have, we're working in the years of people that applied from 2013 and 2014. So it is the long wait, but it's worth the wait if you're on a fixed income or you're going through hard times, because you never know when your name will come to the top. Next slide, Adam. So the way this works for the Housing Choice Voucher Program is a really important slide. If you see where RCAP Solutions is on the slide, and the HAP contract points to the landlord and the voucher points to the tenant. So that means the HAP contract is privy between the RCAP and the landlord. It has nothing to do with the tenant. It's strictly about the tenant, the tenant's unit for that tenant, but it's for payment for the landlord, and it lays out some of the restrictions and requirements. The voucher is a contract between RCAP Solutions and the tenant. And the tenant will have to abide by our rules and regulations and fall within payment standards, and report income and do annuals and allow inspections. The lease is the one that gets confusing for people. We are not privy to your lease. We have nothing to do with lease enforcement. It's a private business, and so we can suggest things, we can help, we can write letters of lease violations, and the tenants can be terminated for lease violations. However, in order to remove the tenant, that would have to go through the court systems. So we wouldn't be able to make them move. We would have to stop a payment, but they would still be in the unit. So that lease is between the landlord and the tenant, and there's, we can't help with a lot of things that go on between the landlord and the tenant. But if the tenant's not paying their portion, they can be terminated, but you would still need to go through the court system to have them removed from the house. We do pay the contract, again, direct deposit to each month on the first of the month. But when you first move in and we're starting up, that payment will probably take at least 45 days, depending on how quickly the contract is returned to us. And also it does expire in 60 days, and we would have to start over if it was over 60 days. Next slide, please. RCAP Go Section 8 tool for Section 8 voucher holders, as well as non-voucher holders, to help find available apartments to Central Mass. Users can search the list and find in several different criteria. So you can add your town, you can add how many bedrooms. This is where we have all of our landlords go to upload their apartments so people can search through them. Anybody can go to the website and search through and find landlords and see if they would be either willing to take their Section 8 or their mass voucher, or if you don't have a voucher, if that apartment would work financially for you, you could go through with that application process. Next slide, please. Inspections happen before the apartment can be moved into. So when you send in the paperwork and we decide or figure out if that apartment is financially available to you, and it doesn't cost you more than 40% of your income, which is what is considered not a rent burden to people, is between 30 and 40%. 50% of your income is considered a rent burden. So when we get all the paperwork and everything works out and everything looks like everything's going to be affordable, we will do the rent reasonableness, which we use our Section 8, Go Section 8 for, and we will pass it to housing quality standards and see if it passes the inspections. Once the inspector gets the request for the inspection, he will call within 3 or 4 days and set up an inspection directly with the owners. When an apartment is rent reasonable means that within the 3-mile area of the apartment that you choose to move into, that the same comparable apartments are getting a comparable rent, so that people are not, or owners are not reaching out and trying to get more because they think they can get more from, a government agency than they would on the street. However, our payment standards are not always equal to the market rent, and especially right now. So there's not a lot of units available, and the ones that are available can be a bit costly. So sometimes we have to negotiate with the landlord and get it within what the area is getting in that moment. And sometimes that is also too high for a tenant. So sometimes there's a little mediation or negotiation that goes on, but the inspector will go out once it's approved, and any deficiencies that are found will be sent to the owner in a letter, and will be able to get them fixed, and he'll give reasonable time frames, 30 days. But when somebody's first moving in, it's only as soon as you can get it fixed can that tenant move in. During an annual, which happens every year, then you'll give 30 days, and then you'll get a reminder, and eventually it can happen that it will affect your payment, because we'll prorate your payment on how many days over you are to fix the unit. The part of that contract is that it's a safe, affordable housing, and some of the areas we look at. Next slide, please. Would be sanitary facilities. So there has to have a operating toilet, shower, bathroom. If there's a plug in there, it has to be grounded. Food preparation and refuse disposal. So you have to have at least a counter to make food on, and a place to take the trash to, space and security. The space is going to be based on the family size and the unit square footage. Some units are too small square foot for 3 people. And so it would not fit. But if the space is 2,000 square feet for one person, that's not a problem. It's just how many people can fit in how much square footage. So it's when the lower square footage, then it becomes an issue. It has to have heat, electricity. Each room should have at least one outlet and one light overhead, or 2 outlets, and natural light to be considered an actual room. So if you have a room that has a divider on it and a window to a middle room in the middle of maybe 2 bedrooms, and that doesn't have any natural light, that is not going to be considered a room. If you were looking at that to be a 3-bedroom, it would be a 2-bedroom. However, you may use other areas like a dining room or a living room as a bedroom. It just has to be designated that way in order to call it a 3-bedroom and get a 3-bedroom payment standard. The structure, materials, lead paint, chipping paint, any kind of asbestos, they'll look at all of that. They'll look at the roof, make sure there's nothing falling apart, railings and stairs coming in and out and down to the basement and upstairs, all have to be in working order and safe and secure. Handrails are mandated after so many steps. The interior air quality, water supply, lead-based paint, again, for anyone having children under the age of 6, they'll need to have been abated. Access, there has to be egress and a way in and a way out for emergencies. So usually they're looking at 2 doors, but as long as it has access to, and you'd be able to exit as well. Some of the condo apartments do not have 2 doors, and they're okay. Site and neighborhood, we do look at the conditions of the neighborhood, the site. That comes in with the rent reasonable, and the computer will go in, put the address in, and ask for a 3-mile radius of other apartments that are listed as well, and look at the comparing rents. Sanitary conditions, you don't want any mice or any infestation. There really has to be nothing crowded around the house, mattresses, old I forgot what they're called, grills, mattresses, beds, any debris that could cause an infestation. And then of course, smoke detectors on all floors and carbon monoxide detectors as well. And that's a pretty inclusive list. If all of these seem to look good to you, I would say that, you would have a better chance of having that voucher be able to be used in that unit. Next slide, please. So tenants are responsible for any kinds of sanitary or unsafe conditions that they may cause. And so they need to keep their unit safe and sanitary. However, if something happens, such as, for example, the toilet backs up and that becomes unsanitary and they don't have the money to fix it, you would be required as a landlord to fix the deficiency. However, you can back bill the tenant and notify us, and you can probably use part of the security deposit or bill them for that. It's but ultimately at the end of the day, the safe and sanitary falls on the landlord to fix, but you can pass that payment on. However, we're not going to reimburse you for that. The tenant cannot cause any damage, have extra people, extra cars or anything forbidden by you. They do have to follow by their lease and their responsibilities. And when they need repairs, they should be following your lease directions to notify them immediately or whatever is stated in your lease. They have to cooperate with RCAP Solutions Inspections Department, and they do have to cooperate with annual recertifications as well. RCAP's inspector's responsibility is to identify conditions that present a threat and health to the safety of the occupants, and they're looking at the whole building as a whole, because an occupant has access as a whole. Even if they don't access the basement, we need to get into the basement to look at other things, heating systems, fire alarms, and we have to make sure if there's stairs that go to the basement that they're safe and that there's railings, because a fireman or an electric service person or one of our inspectors could be hurt if the stairs, to the basement aren't properly held up, or there's no handrail, and there's conditions that could make them fall. They also may look at violations of family obligations. So the family has an obligation to report things to us, such as a new household member, a new child, a marriage, an adoption, income changes. So if an inspector shows up and he has the profile of the home owner or the home renters with him, and he notices that there's an infant, and he has to go through the process of making sure that the lead paint certificates on file. So that could be a violation. He would contact your representative to let them know, look, I see there's a child living there, there's a crib there. And so, I need confirmation that we have a lead certificate. And also then the owner will want to add that child to the list, to the family composition, and you would get a credit for the child. And if you get married, you should have the permission prior to moving that person in with your housing representative, so that when an inspector comes, there are no violations that are found. And then you would have to go through a investigation and prove that this person doesn't live there, or that, we would be able to add them. They would have to apply, and we'd have to go through the queries and the checks to be able to add them to the lease. And the inspectors in RCAP and the representatives all have to work with both landlords and tenants to ensure compliance. So sometimes we do go back and forth, and sometimes we do get involved. But if you have incidences of neighbor against neighbor issues or neighbor against neighborhood issues, then those need to be directed either to the police department, or through your lawyers, or through the court system. Next slide, please. Self-sufficiency program encourages an economic development into the communities. So it's very important to all communities. It does bring in more money to the communities, and it helps our clients become better economically and independent. They join the program. It's a 3 to 5 year program, and there is a waiting list. We only have 50 slots, but they do a lot of financial training. They will help you move up and help you through your college. If you need a GED, they might be able to help you with assistance with daycare. They may be able to, but you do sign a contract with the FSS coordinator, and you do set goals, and the goals do have to be met. However, the really good part of the program is that it's a match savings program to some degree. Every time as you go through the program, your rent is increased by so much, because you improve your economic situation, and so that means your rent goes up. Well, what happens after that is the housing authority, or RCAP, will put a % of that increase into a bank account for you, which you will graduate, and when you graduate and meet all your goals, we will pay outright to you. Today I signed off on a $9,000 check to somebody who's graduating our FSS program, and I've signed multiple of them. So I think it's a great program for both the community and for our clients, and it is only available to your housing choice voucher programs. Snowmass mobility program for the housing choice voucher is offered to families with school-age children who need to move into better economic areas that traditionally have been unavailable to our voucher holders, because of the payment standards being low and the rents being high in these areas. These areas were pulled out through a child index report that our funders at Department of Housing and Community Development had done for them. And so they're identifying areas that have better school systems, better parks, better community, less poverty. And you go through an orientation program, and they will assist you. And there is a $500 bonus for any landlord that takes on one of our vouchers. And after a year's lease, another $500 bonus. There's also about a $4,000 program for every tenant in that enters that program to help to bring down some of the barriers. Maybe it's a little farther out than you would want to be from work because of your car, or maybe there's no washer and dryer laundromats out there. And this, or maybe you need a security deposit. A lot of these things, this $4,000 can cover. It's good to spread it out over the 3 years of the program. If needed, it's like an extra, if you have an emergency, a little bank account that you can work off, and you would submit what you need to your mobility program, and they would either approve it or not. The VASH program, again, is rental assistance for homeless veterans. And this is a wonderful program. We get a lot of referrals. We have several, also in our mod program, we have a veterans home that is strictly for veterans, and it is out in Gardner where the need is a little higher and there's less resources for veterans. Adam? So again, the project-based Section 8 rental assistance is tied to a specific unit for the term of the contract. You can move into one of the Section 8 rental assistance properties that is developed by a property management company. They have so many units that they allow to have Section 8 in. And so you go in, the rent is paid directly the same way to either the owner, and then the tenant will pay their portion to the owner. It's just, if you leave, your Section 8 does not go with you. It doesn't, even if you go from a 2-bedroom in the same complex, unless they are not able to, if you move in, they can't move the subsidy to the new apartment. The subsidy is tied to the apartment you're in. The mod rehab I did talk about, and the Massachusetts rental voucher program I also spoke of. Next, please.
All righty, thank you very much, Maureen. I think we'll just take like 1 or 2 questions here because we have one last section we want to get to. Does anyone have any questions regarding subsidized housing programs? I have one question for RAFT, if we want to answer it real quick. What is the current status of the moratorium on evictions once a landlord has received RAFT funds for the tenant?
So if we have cleared their debt and the client has not fulfilled their next month's payment, the landlord could move forward and start the summary process with the court.
Okay. All right, I think we're good to move on to the next section. I'd like to introduce Linda Kerwin, who's the Chief Elderly Service Officer and Director of Property Management.
RCAP has been managing affordable housing since 1972. All our properties have project-based subsidies through HUD or rural development. So in other words, if you move into the property, you'll receive a subsidy, but if you move out, the subsidy stays with the unit. Residents pay 30% of their monthly adjusted income for rent. Next slide, please. Applicants must be at least 18 years old for our family units. For our HUD 202 or senior properties, the head of the household must be 62 years of age or older or mobility impaired, so as to require the design features of the accessible unit. Hubbardston House Apartments has a HUD-approved elderly restriction waiver. So for non-handicapped studio units only, the head of the household can be 55 years of age or older. All applicants must be income eligible as determined by the most recently published Section 8 income guidelines. If you have questions regarding the guidelines, you can obtain those by contacting our sites directly. Next slide. Applications are available at all our property management site offices, as well as RCAP Solutions in Worcester. Applications can also be mailed or downloaded and printed from the RCAP Solutions website. Applications may be returned via mail or hand delivered. I know we get a lot of questions if they can be emailed. They can, but we still will need a hard copy signature as well. we do not have preferences at our properties. Next slide. All applications and applicants are accepted on a first come, first served basis. Eligibility also requires landlord references, credit references, criminal offender records or CORI, sex offender records or SORIs, and other screening criteria. Next slide. Our resident services team coordinates on-site programs and services related to increasing resident self-sufficiency, assisting residents with maintaining stable tenancy, and providing referrals and services and more. Thank you for your time.
All righty, if we have any questions about that, we'll take them now. We have a few about the previous section, if you want to answer those real quickly. Can a person receiving Section 8 who's behind on their rent, can they apply for RAFT? Another RAFT question.
Yes, they could.
Someone asked a question about receiving a Section 8 voucher in March. They were about to receive it, but I would say that's a more general question. We can, oh, someone had already answered that. So your answer is in the chat box.
I believe Sally is answering questions, Dan, too.
Thank you, Sally. All righty. I think if we don't have any more.
Okay, well, I would just like to take a moment to thank our panelists, our experts, for their time tonight. I'd like to thank our attendees for attending, and hopefully you benefited from the information that was provided. We will, I don't think we have any final questions and answers, so I think we're going to just take a moment here and just say that here's our contact information for each of our individual programs. We will be emailing this slide deck as well as the video and additional material out to all of our attendees and anyone who registered but missed the event. So you don't have to scramble to jot everything down. And then I also just want to remind everyone that we have one final Meet the Housing Experts event for the general public. That will be on June 3rd. That's the final in our series of 3. And if you'd like to register or would like more information, that is on our website under our events. Finally, I would just like to mention that if you are a homeowner and if you have private well water, we have a terrific program for private well owners. This is the website here under rcapsolutions.org/private-wells. It's got a lot of information around ensuring that your drinking water is safe and clean. So with that, I'd like to thank everyone once again, and it looks like we might have one final question. Do we want to address that? Oh, no, I guess someone just said thank you. So with that, if there are no Adam, do we have any final questions that I missed?
One real quick. What type of questions would the landlord receive in the packet, in the RAFT packet? What information will they need?
Yep, so the landlord packet for the RAFT program will consist of the award letter. The award letter is a new implemented document that it is due to the COVID RAFT funds. So the landlord will fill out the amounts of the arrears that the tenant has at the moment. Also a W-9 form of who the owner should be paid for the funds, as well as an appointment of agent. A lot of owners are not listed as individuals. They're listed as an LLC or corporation or so forth. So we would need that appointment of agent filled out, as well as we do give a list of what documents the owner has to submit. I believe those are the only documents that we require that are important, as well as a lease, a copy of the lease, a ledger, and a copy of the deed or tax bill proving to us that the person who is going to receive the funds is the actual owner.
All righty, thank you very much. I think we hit all the questions.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And again, we appreciate our panelists and everyone who attended. And with that, we will say good night, and you will look forward to getting some additional information from us within the next couple of days. Thank you.